Well, hi there, guys. Thanks for joining me, the Zero's Digester. Once again, we're back in John Tiller Software here doing our nice little tutorial videos. In this episode, we're going to learn about activating our boomstick. That's right, this episode's going to be all about artillery and understanding some of the concepts that we talked about previously to make sure we know what we're doing. And one of the first things you should always do in every single turn, you should check out your artillery dialog box. So if we do that, let's go there. Artillery dialog box. You notice we got a bunch of artillery, but none of it is available to us. It's all grayed out. So we're going to look at some of the rules and things that we looked at earlier to help us along in this. First things first, I should mention I do have the volume turned down just to make sure. Yes, I do. Okay, good. So it shouldn't be too loud. And second thing is I have this zoomed in. I have this monitor that I'm recording at 150%. So this way it's nice and big for you guys, but it could make it a little bit fuzzier or not as crisp and clean as it could be, but I thought the trade-off would be good for you. So this is our Panzer Campaigns, one of my brand new games that I had purchased and downloaded from John Tiller just the other day. And we have got to get some setup here to help us figure out things. So first thing, I'm going to go into my settings and I'm going to turn off the beep on air. And I'm going to make sure the background sounds are off. I would normally leave them on if I'm just playing, but if I'm going to be recording, I don't want them on because they can be a little distracting for you guys out there. So I'm going to turn them off, but I would highly recommend you leave them on because they're awesome. They're great sound effects. And then the other thing we want to do is come in and obviously go to divisional markings, turn those on so we can color code and see what's going on. So we've got some artillery here. And we have to figure out, why is it all grayed out? Why can't we use any of it? Well, click on any hex. You can see down here, it's the 6 o'clock a.m., 6th of December, 1941 Russian turn. It's turn 1 of 4. It has frozen conditions, and it is dawn. So if we click on any hex, we will see visibility is only 1 kilometer, so one space. Each hex is 1 kilometer, so only one space. So artillery can't see anything because, well, we don't see any enemy units. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try to fix that up and go, okay, well, let's be able to use our artillery, which we can't do at this present moment. That's because we don't see any enemy units because we can only see 1 kilometer away. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of these units here and we're going to move them up adjacent. We're assuming there's going to be Germans scattered around these victory points. And I'm going to select these units over here. And we're going to look and say, okay, we can move into this clear hex. In fact, we could turn on the reachable hexes. You can see we only move one turn. Because of the frozen conditions, we're getting a 200% penalty to our movement points when we move our infantry units. Of course, if you're not familiar with that, you can go into your parameter data and you can scroll down till we find our movement modifiers here. Here's a foot unit. Frozen conditions 200%. So it's going to cost us twice as much to normally move. If we look at how much it's normally going to cost us to move, we're going to scroll up and look at our foot units. So clear hex 7. To go into a force is going to be 12. So with our penalty, it's going to cost us 14 movement points to move into a clear hex and 24 movement points to move into a forest hex. So lots of movement point costs here. So that's why we're not going to be able to move very fast. We got frozen ground, snow, and everything. So we're going to select these units and we have a decision to make. We can move them here, which is a clear hex, which gives us no bonus, or we can move them here into the forest hex, which gives us a minus 20% to the attack value. So obviously we're going to move them into the forest, right? Because we know better defense is going to give the enemy a harder time to do damage to us. So we're going to double click and we're going to move them into that hex. And look at that, no effect. Awesome. So they tried to opportunity fire at us, but no damage. So now let's look and see what we can do if we go back to our artillery dialog box. You notice that some of our units are now available and some are not available. So what's going on now? Because we can see there's enemy units there, right? We can click on the hex. We can see there's the 6th German Panzer Division. Looks like they have they have lots of men in that squad and lots of other men. This is an infantry squad. This looks like a support squad here. I keep calling them squads, but I shouldn't call them squads. They're obviously going to be like battalions or maybe companies or something like that. They're not obviously squads because we're playing, of course, Panzer campaigns, which is mostly at the battalion level of units. In fact, if we click on ours, we can right-click to see this is the 1st Rifle Brigade of the 56th Rifle Brigade, part of the 56th Rifle Brigade, which is part of the 1st Shock Army, which is part of the Western Front. Again, we should look at our headquarters. You can see this headquarters here. This headquarters is in charge of all the units, and this greenish colored one is going to be in charge of the green ones. The blue one's going to be in charge of the blue ones. And the pink one is going to be in charge of the pink ones and everyone else. So we got a little bit of hierarchy, which we talked about in our headquarters video a couple episodes ago. So with these units moving up, some of our artillery is available, but some is still not available, like our 44th Mortar Battalion. So if we click on them, we can see what's going on here. Well, what's going on here is, if we highlight, go into highlight, we can highlight our indirect fire spotters. So the units that can spot for this guy are all the ones that are highlighted in yellow now. All of those units don't see any enemies, so this one can't obviously do anything. So we need to move these guys, you know, adjacent to enemies that we know of, so we can use our artillery to then attack that spot. Right now, these units can't. If we look at this artillery unit, and we highlight it right there, you can see these units, and these units can spot for it, and since these units are adjacent to those enemies, they're calling back to the mortar battalion and saying, okay, fellas, here they are. They're in this hex right here. Happens to be a village hex. And so why don't you guys go ahead and line them up and take care of them. So back to our artillery dialog box. We're going to go ahead and use our mortar battalion. We can right-click it to get some more detailed information. It has a range of 4 and a soft attack value of 12. So we're going to go ahead and use that right there on that unit. Oops, got to right click and attack it and hopefully do some damage. We have to decide who we're going to be attacking. Let's try the bigger unit there. Oh, just one man there. Let's see if we can get a better result here now. Oh, 3 men, a little bit better. We have the 56th Artillery Battalion. These are part of our 56th Battalion, part of the 56th Rifle Brigade. So we're going to use the same thing. We're going to find out. It has a range of 8 hexes, soft value of 9. Let's go ahead and do some more attacking here. We want to try and disrupt that unit or cause it to have some severe penalties. And then, of course, we have the 701st Gun Artillery Regiment way in the back here. And it has a range of 17 and a soft value of 18. There is 24 guns in there, so hopefully these guys can do some serious damage. Let's take a shot at the littler unit there. 5 men. And 6 men. So we did some damage to them. Unfortunately, didn't get any disruptions or anything. Let's worry about getting these other artillery units, get them going. If we click on each of them, you can see that they're part of the 44th Artillery Brigade, Rifle Brigade. And what we want to do is make sure that we can use them. So we're going to have to move some of our Rifle Brigade units up, adjacent there, so they can spot them. You can see that we are currently in a hex has an elevation of 100. This is 100 as well. This one is actually 200. And if we look at the target hex, this is actually only going to be 100 kilometers. So there is, if we go back into the parameter data, if we scroll all the way back down, you can see elevation minus 10%. So if they're shooting at a higher unit, they get a minus 10% to their attack value. So since we're going to be moving out in the clear, we might as well move out into the move out up the hill, so that way we are higher than the enemy. And there is also one other thing, the movement point penalty modifiers here. Under that, you can see movement point elevations is going to cost us 2 extra movement points per 100 meters of elevation. So if we're moving up the hills, extra movement points. So just keep that in mind. And we've got these units selected. So we're going to come out in the open. And, oh, good, no opportunity fire. That's good. But now let's look at our artillery dialog box. And sure enough, look at that. We can use both of them to attack. Beautiful. Range of 4, soft attack value of 12. So let's take a shot at these guys here. Come on, fellas. Ooh, nice. 5 men. Only 2 men that time. And our second one, artillery battalion in the back. It's got a range of 8, soft attack value of 9. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexes away. So within range, we're going to keep pounding these guys. Come on, get us a good result there, my friend. Nope, just 1 man. All right, so we've used up all of our artillery. And if we click on our air missions, we don't have any of these available. So that's pretty much everything we can do with our artillery. But we learned about, throughout this tutorial episode, understanding the hierarchy, and there's important reasons why, what we just discussed, making sure you understand which units work with other units and can help them, spot for them. The headquarters are going to help all these units try to recover from disruption. These units are going to be able to spot for your indirect fire. We also learned throughout this system that all the rules we learned so far are easily transferable between a lot of the John Tiller software systems, whether that be World War II, World War I, Civil War, Napoleonic Wars, a lot of the same things. Obviously, a lot of the numbers and such are going to be different, and there's going to be some differences in how the system actually plays with different ranges and different amount of men's in each unit. But we understand the basic concepts or the core concepts. We can transfer those out between the different systems. So good for us to learn from what we learned. We understand what the issues were, what the problems were, and now we've been able to use it. And the reason, you want to work on making sure your artillery, your boomsticks, use your boomsticks first, is because, again, we can kind of show this in the parameter data dialog box just a little bit here. So when our units get up here and then we want to take over these positions, obviously we want to assault into these positions and knock the defenders out. Hopefully our artillery will get some disruptions because they're going to be at half firepower. So we want to use our boomsticks to cause some damage to the enemies, not just in men losses. Obviously that'll help as well. But when we go to assault, we can look at our combat losses. And you can notice in our combat losses, these are basically the values of how many men are going to be lost. If you had 1,000 combat value and you were going to do a normal direct fire attack and you had 1,000 combat value, you would do a damage between 10 and 15 losses, 10 and 50 losses to the enemy. with 1,000 combat value. Now, getting 1,000 combat value is going to be extremely hard. You're not going to have that much. So, we're only going to do between maybe 1 and 5 and kills, men losses, because we're going to have, about 100 combat value, which we'll talk about later on. But the most important thing I want to show you is this one here, which is the attacker low value and the defender low value. These are the numbers that are used for assault combat. So you can see the attacker has a much higher loss value than the defender. So if you're attacking equally, if you are just as strong as the enemy, you're going to take twice as much damage to the enemy as they are going to receive. So attacker loss value is going to be between 40 and 200, assuming 1,000 combat value. Again, we're not going to have that high of value. We'll talk about that in another episode. But defender is going to basically, what I'm trying to show you is the defender values are half what the attacker values are. So you always want to make sure if you're going to be assaulting an enemy unit, you've got the upper hand. They're going to have to be disrupted, so they're at half firepower. They're going to have to be punished before you go in and sweep them up and get rid of them. If I was to just, like I said, just do a normal attack with equal to or less than what they have in that hex, we're going to be taking twice as much damage. So that's important. I thought I would just bring that up and show you guys that. So that's why your boomsticks are so important, because your boomsticks are going to cause all those damages and disruptions ahead of time. Then your frontline units are going to move up and then get to assault and hopefully take over these hexes. So I think we've learned a lot so far in this tutorial series, and I'm getting a lot of posts and comments, and I do appreciate everyone doing that. What I might want to do here is actually start a scenario with you guys and kind of go over as we actually play a scenario, if you guys think that might be something that would help watch and learn how to play the game. I've got a couple other series on this channel already that we've been playing through a scenario, but we might just start a fresh brand new one just for this tutorial video series and kind of go over some things. So well, anyways, time is running short here, so we'll get off, and I do appreciate everyone that has watched, and thoughts and comments, suggestions have been great, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. So until then, take care. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.